if we're talking about 85% of the NBA potentially, 85% of the highest level basketball league that's ever existed, enjoying cannabis, I want to get to the question of how many of those guys, or at the very least, how realistic it is that some people were taking whatever form of marijuana that they were in order to actually play better, in order to be better at the game that they would be otherwise.
I wouldn't say that cannabis directly makes you better from a enhancement standpoint of an HGH or a steroid or something like that. I would say it enhances your play because you get a great night's sleep. It helps with inflammation. I smoked before I played, so I'm watching game film on Kobe, and I'm high, so I'm tuned into his moves. I know his rhythm. I know when he takes two dribbles right, he's going to stop and shot fake and get me up in the air. He's going to, so I'm locked in
You're stoned
on
watching Kobe Bryant
the task.
film.
Whoever it was,
Yeah,
Carmelo
yeah, yeah.
Anthony,
You were
LeBron
doing,
James,
I
Kevin
want to,
Durant. That was my job. I had to guard the best players in the world every night. The best guy on every team I had to guard every night.
this is why you're the perfect person to talk about with this stuff, because your job was not
Right.
merely to like get onto the floor and
No.
passively be a normal person while stoned. It was
No.
to stop the greatest scorers in the history of the
Yeah,
league.
man.
But there are lots of people out there who are listening to this conversation and they're like, when I smoke weed, I need to sit in a couch
Right.
and not move.
I feel
And
it.
you're doing potentially the most opposite version of that entire spectrum of possibilities.
Right.
I'm trying to stop Kobe Bryant
Right.
from scoring 40.
Right.
You're trying to stay awake watching
A movie.
the rest of Oppenheimer.
Right. It worked for me. It worked for me. You know what I mean? But there's times at time where I would be getting. I'm not gonna lie. Again, it did a lot of things for me, mentally, focus, sleep. Anti-inflammatory. But there's time, Pablo, after just a crazy day of game stress or family or issues, or I'm in TMZ and on Sports Center and I'm fighting with my former teammate and I'm getting a divorce in front of the world, but I still got to play. Like sometimes
You're getting name checked by Kanye, Matt Barnes.
right?
I'm about to drive 90 miles like Matt Barnes just to whip a ass.
So I mean, sometimes I do just sit back on the couch, man, and just smoke and get high and just kind of just allow things to
as your God-given right as a human being.
Man.
Absolutely.
God is good.
But the question of the science of this, right? Of like, what does marijuana help an athlete do potentially? So I've been reading into the science on this. We've talked to a couple of scientists.
My name is Angela Bryan, and I'm a professor of psychology and neuroscience at the University of Colorado, Boulder.
And their argument is, one of them is, this is not a performance-enhancing drug.
Limu Limo at your service. Here to help you save hundreds by customizing your car insurance with Liberty Mutual. Probably should have gone the other way. Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Almost done.
Come on, man.
And what Professor Bryan did in retrospect made a lot of sense. She set up this experiment to test the effect of cannabis on athletes by asking a runner to run the same route twice, once under the influence of cannabis and another time sober.
Under the influence of cannabis, people, they went pretty significantly slower in the cannabis run. The data we have collected suggest that, the organizations that ban cannabis on the basis of it being a performance enhancing drug are flat out wrong.
But what you're saying is that you found benefits personally when it came to how you proceeded on the court. And so one of the things that I'm curious about is when it came to playing in the game specifically, how do you think it made you better?
I just think it was focus. It helped me with my focus. But I'll even take it back. Say we're in LA tonight. I'm playing for Golden State. We're in LA tonight. We play Kobe and the Lakers. And then we have a back-to-back on a TNT game, which means everything's a little bit later. And we got to fly to San Antonio right after this game to play Tim Duncan. So we're getting to San Antonio. TNT game. It's going to go an hour longer. Everyone's got to do media after. It's going to take an hour and a half, 2 hours to get on the plane and actually in the air to San Antonio. We're not getting to San Antonio until anywhere between 2 and 4 a.m. So some people, it's hard to get off a plane, wake up, get on the bus, and get to your room and go right back to sleep. what are you going to do? Are you going to drink? You're going to take a sleeping pill that's going to have you groggy now for 8 to 10 hours. You know, it might mess up your pregame nap. Or me, I'm going to go ahead and smoke me one to the face and make sure I go to sleep, you know, within the first 30 minutes, 40 minutes while I'm there, and get a great sleep and get ready to guard Manu or Tony or whoever else I had to, you know, guard that night.
Yeah.
I was just glad that it finally has reached a point where there's medical research backing this up. And now, you know, most of major sports, if I'm not mistaken, test for it once or don't test at all for it.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is where we are living in the future being the present tense now. So, like, for instance, I just want to contrast this, right? So Al Harrington once said that he would never get high before playing like Kevin Durant.
But Al was my dog, so Al didn't even start smoking until like late. Al wasn't really smoking during the days like where we were, and that's the only reason I'm talking shit, because that's our guy.
Yeah, of course.
But it was, some guys didn't, like Steven Jackson. Someone I can say that, you know, he was smoking while he was playing. He didn't smoke before games either. After games, he'll blow it down with you, but before games, he wouldn't.
So this club that you were, of course, a charter member of, like, I'm smoking before a game. Explain what that ritual was.
So it would be, first of all, explain the post-game ritual is normally everybody or whoever's a smoker on the team. After the game, we're burning it down.
Great.
Sometimes watch a game film, sometimes, you know, order some food to the house, kick it, get ready to go out, or whatever the situation may be. Day of depends. If you're on the road and there's a couple guys that smoke, I've had guys come to my room and after shoot around, you know, we'll go to shoot around. You know, shoot around's 11 or 12 o'clock for an hour. We come home, I'll come home, and, you know, one of the teammates will come over to my room and we'll smoke one, and then I'll take a nap. I'll wake up, take a shower, eat, and go to the game. So within probably if I'm smoking about 1 or 2 in the game to 7, within a 5-hour window. So it's not like I'm smoking on the way to the game, but it was something that I would smoke, and it helps me take mine, because I like to take like 2-hour pregame naps, sometimes 3-hour pregame naps. Help me take that nap, wake up, feel refreshed, get in the shower, eat, and it's time to go.
Right. And how set was that process?
That was 95% of the time.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And so the question of focus, I want to get to that because it's interesting, right? So as much as science is saying you're not going to get the benefits from weed as you would anabolic steroids, obviously. It's interesting that like a sport like archery, and this is where you got to go a little bit off the board to see the parallels. In Olympic archery, alcohol is a banned substance because the theory is that alcohol for some people calms their nerves. If you ever played darts, if you ever played beer pong, all of us have felt like Kobe.
Oh, one time, I'm nice at beer pong, by the way.
I have no doubt about that.
Even if I have to keep my elbow behind.
I was going to say the elbow rule is a
Yeah,
big. I would be enforcing the shit out of that.
Yeah, I'm get it.
On you.
I'm ready for it. Next time we hang together,
That's
we're
right.
playing beer
That's
pong.
right. Who else was on your sort of approach? Who else is like? How many other guys were like that?
There was a lot, to be honest with you. You mean there was a lot? I mean, again, close team. I would only speak on people who are close. You know, the Steven Jacksons. Who else can I speak of?
Yeah, who's okay with this now?
It just depends, because people are at different places in their life. Like some of my OGs, like someone who kind of raised me, who was my big brother, was instrumental in kind of making it like, this is a responsibility. You still have to do this and this and this. And he was someone who was kind of, again, big brother in me when I first came to the league, and I was bouncing around and not really set on any team, but still doing it because I knew it was something I was with. So I'll leave it at the names of Steven Jackson, but I played with some of the greatest players ever to play this game, have, been involved with this plan and winning championships.
By the way, was there a sense as to like when you were in the league, were guys smoking? Were they eating edibles? Were edibles really a thing at that point?
Edibles were just coming along. You got to think my last year was 16, 17. So edibles had touched down. But I felt like you had to be really well versed in that space, and I wasn't. I had a couple homeboys that they had the edibles down to microdosing before it was, because they just first came as edibles, and microdosing came later.
Yeah.
But I had homeboys that were test dummies that would crash and
teen wolfing.
And figure out what's right, and then and these are other athletes, these are other teammates. You know what I mean? One particular teammate was a test dummy, was my dog, one of my own.
How does one end up the test dummy on an NBA team?
Just he's the one that wants to jump in there. You know what I mean? I had, like I said, edibles were new. Like we all kind of knew we all had our older stories of how we found out how, the actual joint or blunt were for us. Edibles are different.
There's only one way to find out what this specific edible contains.
You got to jump in there butt naked and see what happens.
So, Matt, I've been wanting to do this for a long ass time. I've been planting the seed, as it were,
Mm-hmm.
that I want to do an episode with you specifically about the question of whether marijuana can be a performance enhancing drug. Okay, you're a guy. I mean, I assume you smoked today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, today. Yeah, absolutely. I'm pretty high as we speak right now.
Very good.
Yes.
I am jealous. And for people who don't know, and I hope they do know already, your reputation, but how would you describe the sort of player you were in the league?
Probably like 3-and-D before there was coin 3-and-D, just
Yep.
a hard nosed defender that had did a little bit of everything on the dirty work side and defensive side, and then knocked down shots when I got the opportunity.
Yeah. There's another simpler word that I feel like gets thrown around your scouting report, which is you were an
Hated to play against me, loved to play with me, is what I've heard from teammates and executives and coaches.
Okay, so if you want to understand the culture of a sport, if you want to find out, for example, why upwards of 80% of the greatest basketball league in the world may smoke weed, you can't really go to the superstar athletes. This is a theory I have. They are simply too famous, they have too much job security. What you really need to do is go to California and sit down with Matt Barnes. Because the most distinguishing thing about Matt Barnes to me is his candidness about what it's like to play for 9 different teams over a 14-year NBA career, and also about what it's like to have been, according to my own research here, arguably the biggest stoner in professional basketball. And all of this was back when smoking weed really meant something, by the way. Matt Barnes is from Sacramento County, and he was doing all of this when it was very illegal, back before legal dispensaries, back before all of these stores that have opened up. This was still years and years away from the NBA deciding, finally, to stop testing for weed altogether. You were doing this, by the way, like during, and I think this is a key distinction here when you talk about policy changes. You were doing all of this during David Stern's NBA.
Yeah, it was a different watch back then. Definitely a different watch.
So let's just start from the start. So for you, I want people to really understand where you're coming from, just like even before the NBA.
Yeah.
Chronologically speaking, when does the relationship between marijuana and basketball begin for you?
Man, my dad was dabbled in the streets a little bit. So I saw drugs at an early age. I was born in 1980, so in the 80s, a lot of people did a lot of different drugs then. But I always remember my dad at the end of the day would smoke a joint, and he also smoked cigarettes, and I hated the smell of cigarettes. But I remember when he smoked it, I didn't know what it was at the time, but he would smoke this joint and it would smell different, and he would relax and he'd have a Budweiser and he'd watch something on TV, and that was kind of like the mellow time we would have, and it just always stuck with me. So at 14, I stole some weed from him and tried it, and the first time got a huge headache, huge headache, but I wasn't a quitter. I jumped back on the horse and kind of found early on. This is 14, 15 years old. It relaxed me. It focused me.
How would you describe that? So I want to, when you say it relaxed you, what did you need relaxation
It
from?
would just allow me to kind of relax and focus and take things step by step, and not overreact, and it helped me sleep. So it did a lot of things early on that I couldn't put my finger on, but I knew it just made me feel different and made me feel better. Now there's medical research to back up what I know it's been doing for me since I was a teenager nearly 30 years ago.
When you mentioned that your dad, he was in the business of drugs before this was a
Mhm.
business that was allowed.
Right.
So when you think back, just how do you describe it for someone who isn't familiar with what that must have been like?
It was different because it wasn't just weed. It was coke. It was a lot of different. It was the 80s. You know what I mean? So it was interesting because me and my brother and sister all steered away from that. I felt, but there were some kids. At 5 years old, I'm playing with the neighbor kids because our parents are getting high, and my little friends knock a plate of cocaine over and start eating it, and next thing you know, they're foaming out the mouth. I'm running to my
Oh,
house to tell
God.
our parents that I don't know but I'm 5 years old, 6 years old. So I just saw a lot at an early age, and I kind of feel like either if you see it, you're going to steer towards it, or you're going to steer away from it. And I steered away from it. So my goal was to never kind of be back in that kind of situation or environment, and I knew there was more out there. So that was kind of always my go throughout my childhood and high school days, college days, and through the pros.
So the biggest difference between Matt Barnes, even at an early age, stoned and sober, is
Mhm.
what? How different are those people, would you say?
I mean, they're not very different. I think at an early age, I think obviously you have to handle what you can handle. You know what I mean? I went to school with a bunch of excuse me, but I went to school with a bunch of white kids. So they're taking 6-foot gravity bong rips.
We
and
don't
that's
use
not-
those slurs here,
Yeah,
white
right.
kids.
So there's 6-foot bong rips, and then there was gravity bongs where we used to take an Alhambra bottle and to cut the bottom of the Alhambra
Yep.
bottle out, make a bowl at the top, submerge it, make a bowl, and then So that's the first time. Funny enough, we're talking about a gravity bong. The first time I got high before a game. This is, I think it was in my senior year of high school. We're playing in this tournament, and I won MVP 2 years. I think it's my junior year. I won MVP my freshman, my sophomore year. Dominating first game, big game. Cut school on the Friday of the second game and get super high, and it was like Teen Wolf. Where you're turning and everything's coming a little bit behind you and turning, and it's just like it was I was too high. I played horrible. My friends are up in the stands laughing at me. I want to say I was averaging like 35, 40 points in this tournament. I had like 4 to 6 points in this tournament. Remember, I airballed 2 layups. It was bad. So I say all that to say, like, I had to figure out what worked for me.
Right.
You know, how much,
Right.
because, you know, maybe it's more for me and less for someone else, or less for me and more for someone else. So I kind of just found what my why was. First of all, why was I doing it? And then what was my tolerance level to be able to still perform and do it at the same time? Because I have to be responsible with it.
Right. So the first time though, you
Too far.
when you went Teen Wolf,
Deep waters.
what was there a thought as to like, I'm gonna see what this is like, I'm gonna try this out?
I just didn't think I was gonna get that high and it was gonna stay that long. Like
It was an
It
accident.
happened at 1:30 and the game was at 7. And I was still just loaded the whole the whole day. I was just loaded, and it just, I could cold water, pool, nothing could shake it off me, and it was a lot.
When do you realize the Goldilocks of this, right? Okay, too hot, too cold, but just right.
Yeah.
How do you figure out, when do you figure out what just right feels like?
I remember the football season early on. I hurt my foot and kind of kept playing, and it was
Because you're also like a star receiver.
Yeah, I was a better football player than basketball. So just, you know, before a game, kind of finding out, okay, you know, half a blunt, what would that do to me? Okay, I could do that. And then, you know, it eventually got to, throughout my career, that I would smoke, you know, whether it was the blunt stage or the joint stage, a joint or a blunt before the game.
And when did you decide it's a blunt or a joint?
Wiz Khalifa actually changed me from blunts, because I was a Swisher Sweet guy for like 20 plus years, and those things are just, whew, those are heavy on your lung, but you don't know
Right.
how heavy they are until you try something else. So again, I'm someone who, during my time, I prided myself on being really well in shape and never getting tired and always running. So I didn't realize how heavy blunts were on my chest until I switched over to joints. Compliments of my guy Wiz. He just, try this, tasted better, cleaner. It just didn't feel as heavy on my lungs. So I probably crossed over in 2015 and haven't been back since.
Okay, so I want to go back to college though, right? So high school, I can imagine you get away with some stuff because it's high school, and I guess
Uh-huh.
there's not a testing program that's official in high school. But UCLA, I mean, you go to
A little different.
UCLA.
Yeah, it's a little different.
How would you figure out, this is what I need to do to not get in trouble?
Niacin, I think it was. They said, because you'd hear urban legends of guys on campus, what do you do to get it out of your system? So I stayed on campus for 4 years and had 3 tests, and somehow got by all of them. I just didn't go to one.
That's a pretty good way
I
to
just
not
didn't go to one.
fail it. To not go.
One was niacin, and then one I drank so much water I felt like I was going to be like pass out. And one was diluted and it was fine. One I didn't take, and then the niacin flushed me one time. At first, you know, I didn't know who at UCLA smoked, so I used to just be by myself, and there's like a wooded area with steps down to the fraternities. So I used to go back there and smoke by myself because I didn't know who else smoked.
It's relatable in the sense that like you got to go to this like wooded area
Yeah.
by yourself
Hide out.
because the stakes are
Hi.
right.
No pun intended.
Yo, but for real though, I want people to understand because this is around what time, what year?
1998, 99, 2000.
Right. So this
Way
was
early,
like
way early.
headlines in newspaper stories.
Absolutely.
If you get
like
popped
real
for
trouble.
this.
Like, probably get kicked out of college possibly.
How obvious was it though that you were smoking and playing and evading the tests at the time you were doing it?
I mean, I was just good. I mean, I've always been really self-conscious of, okay, if I'm going to do this, I can't, because I'm public. I'm a functioning smoker, I guess you would call it. Like before I'd go on ESPN, before I play, like I'm always smoking, but I always have my little kit where I have my toothbrush, my mouthwash, some cologne, a change of clothes, some lotion. So, because I can't walk around smelling like it all the time. I just
Right.
understand
This
this
is veteran
professional.
savvy
Yeah, right.
now.
Come on, man.
Yes. No, I think functional is a
Yeah.
key. It's a key adjective to all of this.
It's got to be, man. It's got to be some balance.
Right. So, okay. But the idea that, okay, I have a kit, I have a process.
Yeah.
When did that specific ritual really set in where you're like, I know how to do this?
College, it was because obviously I knew I had to hide. But, once I didn't really, not that I didn't care, I don't want to say that. Just once I was kind of more recognizable and in situations and around people that would, because I've been around athletes, unfortunately, that smell like a whole pound. And I'm just thinking like, it's cool. I know you smoke, but it's kind of irresponsible from a standpoint of we're not there yet. You know what I mean? We're not there yet. So you're kind of giving up the secrets for everybody almost.
Right. No, but this part is really important. The nuance of what you're describing, which is if we're going to do this at this time, like the early 2000s,
responsible.
We need to be careful and responsible because we're all at risk here. Are you doing the thing where it's like a paper towel roll equivalent and like some fabric softener in it, or like?
So, I mean, it just
how
depends. I mean, I was always a big candle dude. So I always had candles. I'd always block the doorways as much as I can. Sometimes I used to run the hot water early on, but then it would get too
I don't know
hot
if it
in there.
works. I don't know.
It
if
would just
ever
cause
worked.
more steam, and you would think. So who
Feels
knows?
like it's
Scientifically,
another smoke.
it's maybe an
seems like
urban legend that it actually worked. But again, I just tried to control it with, and then anyone who came to my room,
Just made sure they were.
I would tip them
allies.
well, and just make sure just be very respectable when you're
Yes.
doing it, I guess.
And right. So the consideration for other people, you don't want to get in their way. You don't want to make their lives harder.
Right.
And in the process, what you're also doing is like living in the future.
Right.
So the idea that you get to the NBA and there's now going to be this testing program
Mhm.
and the reputation of the program again, this is David Stern's NBA.
Yeah.
So this program's reputation, did it even begin to scare you out of trying this?
I came in the league early 2000s, and it was everyone got drug tested during training camp one time. So it'd be a fact where everyone knows, okay, training camp starts Monday, Thursday, the dude's coming, and everyone's getting tested. So we would have our blunts or our joints rolled up in the car as soon as we get out of practice, like cheersing each other in the parking lot still. You mean because we knew it was coming? But I kind of
but that scene though, the idea that like it's kind of like, it's almost like that's graduation.
like
day
whose house are we
almost.
going to after practice?
Right.
We're gonna go smoke a couple, and
So it starts off with that's going to be one test in training camp preseason.
to 4 randoms.
So I want to just generally situate again, like the kids out there, right?
Yeah.
For like what's happening in the league at this point, because
Mhm.
this is now David Stern. This is like the dress code had been implemented.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the question of like, why, Matt?
Yeah.
Why does it go from one predictable preseason test to 4 randoms?
There was issues with performance enhancing drugs in other sports, whether it be football, baseball. I don't remember the exact years, but it was in the same
Yeah. Late 99.
time.
late-
Early 2000s, mid
Major League
2000s.
Baseball.
Yeah. So they know there wasn't really a steroid issue in the league, but a league that's predominantly black. What is the stereotype drug that most black from back in the day, from rappers to street dudes use? Weed.
Right.
That there wasn't a steroid problem. We weren't getting to like football and baseball tested for steroids. What can we test them for? Weed.
Right.
So
Parallel
that's
to the dress code in its own way.
kind of,
How do we clean up the image?
under looking at our demographic, predominantly, 70%, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere in that
A
black.
super majority. Yep.
And it was funny to say all that, Pablo, because I remember I did fail a few times. You get 3 strikes. I was on like 2.75. A couple fails. You get a couple of, if you know it's coming and you're not prepared, you can turn yourself in. So I turned myself in. Luckily, they let me turn myself in twice. That's why I say you're only supposed to be able to get one, you get out of jail free card. Like, hey, you're coming to test me today. I don't have my drink. Cliff, Dirk, I'm coming home, baby. I'm coming back to the drug program. You know what I mean? So I'm coming back to the drug program.
So Cliff and Dirk, in case you were wondering just then, Cliff and Dirk are the names of the people who run the NBA's drug program, which I needed to clarify with Matt by text afterwards. And Cliff and Dirk and the NBA first started testing for weed back in 1999 during training camp specifically. And as Matt alluded to, as a result, everybody knew when the test was coming. This may explain why only 12 active players out of 430 that first year tested positive, a super low number that the league publicly celebrated as proof that this whole slate of off-court marijuana possession incidents in the 90s were absolutely not reflective of the reality of the NBA. But in the 2000s, the NBA instituted what Matt has referred to as those 4 random drug tests, which meant that if you ever got a third positive test, that third strike, you got suspended for 5 games. And then the league would start adding 5 more games to each ensuing violation after that. And so Matt Barnes failed 1 test in 2007 with the Warriors and a second test in 2014 with the Clippers. And so instead of testing positive a third time, he just chose to re-enroll with Cliff and Dirk preemptively.
But I found out, towards the end of my career when I'm in there, from the superstars to rookies are in that program. And I remember at one point they told me more than half the league was in the program for cannabis. Half the league, 250 plus guys are in the. I don't know who. I know some of the people because we were teammates at times or whatever. But a lot of people for that. Period.
Right. Which is, I think, a staggering thing to realize on a couple of levels. So it's staggering on the level of like, okay, so what you're saying is that more than half the league has been involved in the program, meaning they have gotten popped or been summoned to the league office
somehow, some way.
On a watch list of some kind. But what that also says is that beyond, okay, it's catching people, it's the prevalence of this. Was that surprising to you when you heard that it was more than half the league?
Yes, because it was just that many people in the in a league of 400, a little bit over 400 people.
Well, it's like a silent majority,
right?
Literally. So the NBA has its own version of a war on drugs, and it's done. I think I'm with you on the level of this originates from a PR perspective, and a manicuring of an image to make it more friendly and comfortable for
it's
family-friendly mainstream America is the theory, right?
Yeah.
But when it comes to those tests, that is the test that is getting more than half the league involved in this program. Who are the people doing the testing?
Oh, it's a company they hire. I can't even say what we used to call these people.
Why? Why can't you say it?
Just because we're in a different climate now. This is, you got to think, we used to, we call them,
we can
for a better word, watchers, because they would really, it came to a point because there was a point where there was, I'm not giving anything that people don't know all their way because the policy is completely
exactly.
gone, but
no, we can talk about it.
People
now.
used to have the prosthetic penises,
the Wizinator,
with the someone else's pee in it. And that was what got you. That was urban legend. I heard about that in high school and in first getting in college and this. And you don't got the fake. Like, nah, bro, I don't got the fake. Sorry.
The Wizinator is a lifelike prosthetic penis designed to simulate male urination. It is very easy to use and available in white, black, and Latino skin tones.
And then it would be a situation where sometimes you would just turn a cup of pee in so you can have someone else pee for you. So, I mean, obviously it started to evolve and they took it more serious. So it got to the point where you had to drop your pants down to your ankles and someone would, like, if this is me peeing right here, there's a watcher like.
This is Matt Barnes taking the podcast microphone and staring at it at an arm's length.
Yeah, it's not yet barely an arm's length. Like they're that close to you and they watch the pee come out of your body. You know what I mean?
So which is to say that the Wizinator became and the chain of custody of urine became such a threat that they were like, we gotta see it come out of your actual,
the source.
We got it.
Pablo, I kid you not. There's been twice in my career where I had to shit and give the pee, and this person had to come in the stall with me because they wanted to make sure that I wasn't. So I had to put the cup down in here while I'm shitting, and I would have to pee in a cup. Like if I'm
and
lying,
that's just nature calling.
If I'm lying, I'm flying. I'm just like, I'm not gonna be able to pee without someone else coming out. So I'm gonna have to go. And it happened twice in my career.
And they were there.
They were there, man.
So
it was serious.
I didn't realize that I would find out that Matt Barnes shit and peed in front of a drug testing NBA employee twice.
Yeah, I don't even think it's they're working for the NBA, but they're an outside company.
So as in they show up how
The
and
morning
when?
of, they have to. So the morning. So it used to go. So once we were in the 4 randoms, we would get a call the morning of from our trainer. List 4 to 5 guys, and I think they got hip to that, so they just started saying, okay, just 4 or 5 guys, but we're not giving you any names till we get there. So there could have or may not been trainers that got paid to say who was on the list so we can prepare. That I can't confirm or deny
That's
that.
right.
May have
Allegedly.
happened, may have not. Allegedly is the word. So it got to the point now where it's just all right, most teams are in group chats. All right, drug test guy to here today. So I would just always, every time that happened, which is probably, 10 times a year, 8 times a year, I would have to treat it like I was getting tested. So I always had a drink on me. So I'd have to get up early. I would take this nasty drink, then I'd drink 3 big water.
You're like entering ghost protocol.
Right. It's tough because especially you got to think if it's a game day or a practice because you're so bloated from having to take this shake and then drink all this water. And then you have to pee 3 times. And then you have a 6-hour window where you can pee clean.
Right.
And I did that for almost 15 years.
But you were ready. It was like people have like a
On
to-go
call,
bag.
on call. So I'm eating clean. I'm eating a lot cleaner. So, you stay lean. So you get that out of your, because they say it on average is a
fat,
month.
right? And well, the THC gets stored in.
Yeah.
in
But they
fat,
say
too.
on average, it stays in your system for a month. They say it stays in your hair a little longer. But this is pre being accepted. So it's just like I'm eating clean. After the games, I'm in the steam room, or after the games, I'm even doing another workout just to sweat more. So it was a real job to do it.
I imagine at a certain point, these guys who are like contracted with the NBA, who are watching you shit in a stall with you, watching your dick in the most real way.
That sounds violating even talking about it.
It sounds insane. I wonder if there's even some sort of like camaraderie where just like,
oh, we knew the dudes by name and everything. Like it was cool. We would be cool with them. We'd be cool with these dudes. We knew them by name. It kind of just was what it was. I mean, they knew they were watching and we knew they had to watch our so it was kind of just damned if you do, damned if you don't. We need this piece somehow. That's what it was.
oh my God. Just a series of incredible sentences. When it comes to the estimates of like how many guys are enjoying cannabis in the league at the time that they were playing. So I've seen a couple of estimates. So obviously the most, I think, direct one is your estimation that more than half the league per these testers were in the program. But then, of course, Al Harrington is saying probably around 70% of the NBA when he played. Kenyon Martin was saying, and Kenyon Martin played from 2000 to 2015, overlapping with you in large part. He was saying
Al
that.
too.
Yeah, 85% of the
Yeah.
NBA is his
I'm just
number.
saying only half the league was caught. That's not saying so a lot of people got, because you got to think, I got caught 2 times and I played for 15 years. You know what I mean? So there was a lot of times I wasn't getting caught.
Right. And so the question I have, which is based off of just that degree of pervasiveness in the league, when you think about why they were doing it, what's your theory?
I don't know why. I can never speak to why they were doing it. I can only speak to why I was doing it. And it was something that it would just became a part of me and to this day. And I feel like in life, whether you're a big time athlete or CEO or just a housewife that takes care of kids all day, like everyone has a vice, whether it be a glass of wine, whether it be harder alcohol, whether it be harder drugs, whatever it may be. And I kind of just felt like cannabis is not really that bad. And now that there's medical research backing it up, it was just kind of call it my vice. And that's why I did it. Again, it was as an athlete, I wasn't someone who popped pills a bunch. While pills are, I've talked to football guys where, pills are like in big jars of, it's almost like little candy for them. But as for athletes, there was
a problem
for basketball. It was, we can get our hands on anything we want. I mean, I even got shot with Toradol to play,
which is again, a football style remedy.
Yeah. So it's just like, it was always that, or, cut that in half and smoke weed with it.
So the idea of like pain management, I think, I wonder if people appreciate how much of a constant state of pain some players are in. Because football is like, well, that's football.
Yeah.
But the NBA,
Basketball.
you're saying that
Hardwood. I mean, banging, falling on the ground, ankles, fingers. I mean, obviously football is contact every single, but and then it's played on grass and it's a very physical sport. Hockey, very physical, but basketball is that hardwood, and we're on the ground a lot, and people don't realize how hard, like, the ground is undefeated. You know what I mean? So it's just wear and tear. It's a long season, 82 games. So, I was lucky to not really have any significant injuries, but it's just the wear and tear of just basketball alone is a lot on your body.
Right. And so coming into this, I was like, okay, if we're talking about 85% of the NBA potentially, 85% of the highest level basketball league that's ever existed, enjoying cannabis, I want to get to the question of how many of those guys, or at the very least, how realistic it is that some people were taking whatever form of marijuana that they were in order to actually play better, in order to be better at the game that they would be otherwise.
I wouldn't say that cannabis directly makes you better from a enhancement standpoint of an HGH or a steroid or something like that. I would say it enhances your play because you get a great night's sleep. It helps with inflammation. I smoked before I played, so I'm watching game film on Kobe, and I'm high, so I'm tuned into his moves. I know his rhythm. I know when he takes 2 dribbles right, he's going to stop and shot fake and get me up in the air. He's going to, so I'm locked in.
You're
on
stoned watching Kobe Bryant.
the task.
Fell.
Whoever it was,
Yeah,
Carmelo
yeah, yeah.
Anthony,
You were
LeBron
doing- but
James,
I
Kevin
wanna-
Durant. That was my job. I had to guard the best players in the world every night. The best guy on every team I had to guard every night.
This is why you're the perfect person to talk about with this stuff, because your job was not
Right.
merely to like get onto the floor
No.
and passively be a normal
No,
person while
uh-uh,
stoned. It was
no.
to stop the greatest scorers in the history of the
Yeah,
league.
man.
But there are lots of people out there who are listening to this conversation. And they're like, when I smoke weed, I need to sit in a couch
Right.
and not move.
I feel
And
it.
you're doing potentially the most opposite version of that
Mhm.
of that entire spectrum of possibilities.
Right.
I'm trying to stop Kobe Bryant
Right.
from scoring 40.
Right.
You're trying to stay awake watching
a movie.
the rest of Oppenheimer.
Right. It worked for me. It worked for me. You know what I mean? But there's times at a time where I would be getting, I'm not going to lie again, it did a lot of things for me mentally, focus, sleep, anti-inflammatory. But there's time, Pablo, after just a crazy day of games, stress, or family, or issues, or I'm in TMZ and on Sports Center, and I'm
Yes.
fighting with my former teammate, and I'm getting a divorce in front of the world, but I still got to play. Like sometimes
You're getting name checked by Kanye, Matt
man,
Barnes.
right?
I'm about to drive 90 miles like Matt Barnes just to whip a ass.
So I mean, sometimes I do just sit back on the couch, man, and just smoke and get high, and just kind of just allow things to.
As your God-given right as a human
Come on, man.
being. Absolutely.
God is good.
But the question of the science of this, right? Of like, what does marijuana help an athlete do potentially? So I've been reading into the science on this. We've talked to a couple of scientists.
My name is Angela Bryan, and I'm a professor of psychology and neuroscience at the University of Colorado, Boulder.
And their argument is, one of them is, this is not a performance-enhancing drug. And what Professor Bryan did in retrospect made a lot of sense. She set up this experiment to test the effect of cannabis on athletes by asking a runner to run the same route twice. Once under the influence of cannabis,